Hi, welcome to Let's Talk. Today I'm joined by Shubhanna from the Coalition of Carers in Scotland. Hi, Shubhanna.
Hi there, Claire. Thanks
Hi.
for the invitation today.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming along. And today we're going to be talking about carers' human rights, Shubhanna, which is probably something people don't really know much about. So, could you tell me then? We've been hearing quite a lot about human rights recently, but what does that mean for carers, Shubhanna?
So quite a lot, Claire.
Yeah.
So I think to start off with, it's probably worth maybe kind of dispelling some of the myths that people generally have about human rights, and it's probably why they think as carers it's not relevant to
Hmm.
them, because often when people talk about human rights, they're thinking about court cases and legal matters, and yes, that's absolutely part of it,
Hmm.
but actually our human rights. And the human rights legislation is there to ensure that all of us, including carers, have access to the same opportunities in life, regardless of who we are and what we are. So, for example, a disabled person or somebody who is an unpaid carer should not be denied some of their basic rights, the same rights that other people already have access to. For example, the right to be able to socialise in your own community, the right to be able to work, the right to have an education, the right to have privacy in your own home, the right to have a family life, to have dignity, and not be discriminated against when they're accessing services for themselves or the people that they care for. All of these are basic human rights, Claire.
Okay.
And when carers are not able to access these services for them or the person that they're caring for,
Hmm.
it's essentially a violation of their human rights. So that's why it's important that carers are
Definitely.
aware that their rights and how human rights impact on their rights as a carer.
Definitely, Shabana. And how can carers use human rights knowledge to access better support for themselves and the people they care for?
So we're not actually expecting carers to, I guess, become experts in human rights legislation. But what I think is important is that carers are aware of at least some of the basic rights that they have under, for example, the Human Rights Act.
Hmm.
So the Human Rights Act itself covers 16 different rights, but there are about four rights in there that we often highlight to carers because those four rights are particularly relevant because they are the ones that are most likely to be violated when it comes to carer support. So if I can just briefly just mention those four rights and
Definitely.
we'll talk a little bit at the end about how people can find out more information about these. So essentially we're talking about, for example, Article 2. So Article 2 is your right to life, and although that might sound a wee bit drastic, um, your life must not be at risk. Because of your caring role, and if you're not able to access, for example, medical treatment because of lack of support or replacement care, and in some circumstances, if that leads to affecting your right to life, then public authorities must step in to protect your life. So that's Article 2, the right to life. You also have Article 3, which is the right to not be treated in an inhuman and degrading manner. So this is about ensuring that your caring role is not leading to you being treated in a way which could be considered inhuman or degrading. And again, if public authorities are aware that your caring role is putting you in those circumstances, then they have an absolute duty to step in and prevent that. The third one I wanted to highlight was Article 8. So Article 8 is quite an important one. It might be one that people are most familiar with. Article 8 is your right to private and family life, home and correspondence, to give its full name. And Article 8 gives you a number of rights around, for example, being able to participate in the life of your local community. It gives you the right to being able to access medical treatment for yourself. It gives you the right to establish and maintain relationships with others, having choice over your body. Gives you the right to have privacy in your own home, etc. And what we often find is when it comes to human rights and carers, it's often Article 8 that is being violated. When you think about carers not being able to access their own communities, not being able to have a break from their caring role, not being able to, pursue other interests outside of the caring role, etc. And the last one I wanted to just highlight was Article 14. So Article 14 is under the Human Rights Act. It's the right to not be discriminated, and it's also a right that's protected under the Equality Act. So this basically means, so Article 14 basically means for carers that they should not be experiencing any discrimination when they're accessing services because of a protected characteristic that they may have. So, for example, a disabled carer should not be facing any barriers to accessing a building because of their disability. You know, if somebody can't speak English, if a carer can't speak English, then there should be translation and interpretation services provided so that there are no barriers to them accessing services. And also, for example, carers should not be treated less favourably because of their religious beliefs or their sexual orientation. So all of that is covered under the Equality Act and under Article 14 of the Human Rights Act. So there should be no discrimination because of who you are when you're a carer trying to access services. So those, and that was a really quick rundown, Claire.
Yeah.
Those four are, when I say carers don't need to be experts, I think if they're at least aware of those four articles and what they mean and how they can be used to think about and talk about the issues that they're facing in terms of social care services and support.
Good. Yeah, like you say, that's the main four that you would want people to definitely know about. And I think some people probably they're aware of these things, but they probably don't know there's a right behind that as well. So yeah, it's good to hear those short examples regarding that to make it a bit clearer for people as well, Shubhanna. Thanks for that. Now, are there examples of where carers have used their human rights knowledge to access better support for themselves or the people they care for?
I think we're beginning to see more and more examples. I think, and that's happening because carers are beginning to sort of hear the sort of things that we're talking about today, Claire, but they're also beginning to reframe a lot of their social care issues as human rights issues. And I think once they start to do that, they will start to see some differences. I mean, in terms of examples, even just in terms of my own life, so a few years ago when we moved into the house that we're in right now, so my husband is a wheelchair user, and we requested a stair lift to be put into our house, and it was initially refused because the local authority claimed that because we have an additional bedroom downstairs and we have a second bathroom downstairs and the kitchen's downstairs, obviously, that all his needs were being met. So therefore, why on earth would they fund a stair lift for him? So my husband is also a dad. So we have children, and our children sleep in the bedrooms upstairs. They play upstairs, you know. So the fact is, by not being able to go upstairs, he was not being able to, for example, put our kids to bed. He was not able to spend time with them playing, with their Legos. But he wasn't able to do things that every other parent would just take for granted. So it was actually on that basis that we did that, what we've been talking about before, Claire, about that reframing the conversation. And we said, this isn't about just a stair lift. This isn't just about meeting his basic needs. This is about his right as a dad. This is about his right under Article 8, the right to a family life. And I mean, I wasn't that sort of firm with them about it, but when we start to talk about it in those terms, in terms of your human rights, as opposed to a resource and a piece of equipment, I think people begin to realise what they're doing, and I would like to think that people that are making decisions about our lives, they're also humans. I think sometimes it just takes a wee reminder about the humanity and also about our rights to be able to do the same things as everybody else. It's just taken for granted.
Yeah, I think people need to look at the bigger picture, don't they? Because it's not just for easy access to toilets, easy access to kitchens. It's not about you. People need to look at what else is going on within people's lives,
Yeah.
and people need to understand that as well. They can fight for that bit more than what does make it better for them and for the person they're caring for, because it impacts on everybody's lives at the end of the day.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. So I think what the human rights legislation is supposed to do is almost create a level sort of playing field, because
Yeah.
essentially what people are asking for
Mhm.
isn't any more than what other people are already getting. And the reason, it goes back to the whole thing about what even is social care. So social care for a lot of people is a means by which they are able to achieve the same opportunities and the same rights as everybody else. That's essentially what it is, for people to be able to go out and hang out with their friends or socialize in their community. They need a wee bit of support, and that bit of support is provided through social care services, etc. And that's where social services help people to achieve their human rights.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
it does. It does. It makes total sense, definitely. So, where can carers find out more about their human rights or how to raise a social care concern as a human rights issue?
So I think it's a lot to ask carers to sort of go away and just do
Yeah,
this. So which is why we have a series of resources on our website, and I don't know, Claire, whether you can put in a link when
definitely.
you
Yeah.
put out this, when this goes out, and also, so that's what I would that would be my first
Mhm.
sort of step to signpost people to www.carersnet.org, and on there there's a whole section on carers rights and human rights in particular. I'd
Mhm.
also encourage carers to come and speak to you guys at the carer centre as well, because I know a lot of staff have come along to some of our sessions on human rights and have definitely built up their understanding and knowledge around human rights, and will be able to help carers to think about their issues from a human rights lens, and start to think about, well, actually, what is this whole issue about? What is this lack of service and support about? Is it a violation of their rights under Article 8? Is this violating their right to life, or their right to not be treated in an inhuman and degrading manner? And so I guess the starting point, because as I said, it's a lot
Yeah.
to take in, is maybe to come and speak to you guys, and if staff are unable to help, they can also come back to us, and we can put together another session for some of the carers around helping them to understand their rights around human rights and what that means for them as a carer. So
Good. Yeah, yeah. We've wound this up within a 10-minute conversation, and I've been involved in your chats before, Shubhanna, and it's a huge piece of conversation to be had with people. But we've obviously touched on the most um, talked about subjects you've covered just now. But yeah, if we will pop in the comment section below some links to what we've discussed today, and by all means, people are welcome if they want to find out more. Get in touch with the centre and pop in, and we can help you as much as we can, and we can signpost you on to other organisations as well if need be. But yeah, that was great, Shubhanna. Thank you very much for chatting with me today. I think it's good for people to know a bit more about this, because I think we've all been in a situation before where we think something needs to be done, but we just don't know where to turn or who to speak to or where to go with it. So it's good to know that people can talk about this, and they do have rights if they're just not sure that what they've received is incorrect.
yeah, absolutely, Claire.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks again, Shubhanna.